Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. This is Otaku Showboat. Today is Thursday, May 28th, 2020. If you are watching the VOD on YouTube, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you're so inclined, head on over to twitch.tv/Otaku Showboat to leave a follow to be notified when I go live Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to approximately 1 p.m. US Eastern Time. You can do all of the social stuff through the links below the video, including supporting Pyanodon's mods development at patreon.com/Pyanodon and myself at patreon.com/Otaku Showboat. So, lots of things to discuss today. But first off, a announcement unrelated to anything gaming. So the kittens made weight. What does that mean? It means that they're able to go through their medical procedures today. They shall be fixed. Which, by the way, last time it was brought up about using the term fixed to refer to spay and neutering as being more breaking than fixing. Well, if you really want to get into that, the use of the word fixed in this case is not the meaning of repair. It is the meaning of putting into a fixed state, as in they become fixed in their state with this procedure. So they don't go through the changes in mental attitude every so often that one would expect normally with cats that have all of their bits. So anyway, or just, cats or dogs in general, they both go through the same things relatively cyclically. But anyway, so that means that since they're in and doing all their medical procedures, it's not just the spay and neutering that they're having done today for the kittens. It's also other medications that they're getting and microchips that they're getting today. So lots of stuff. They will be ready this weekend. So the point is, Saturday is going to be a big day. I think we need to have that scheduled fully. But we have to. It's a 4-hour drive each direction, so it's an 8-hour day trip out to collect the kittens and bring them home. That it does look like it will be this weekend. We were thinking maybe it would be pushed back another week until the 6th, but it's looking like this weekend at this point in time. I'll keep you posted on that. But so, anyway, in the actual game, several updates. Several updates in the actual game itself. As far as the Pie Suite is concerned. One of which is... we'll get to it. First off screen, I created a factory for iron oxide. It is here. I made an iron oxide factory off screen yesterday to provide my main mall area with sufficient amounts of iron oxide to make ferrite for the Circuit 2 production. The Circuit 2 production is now consistent-ish. It is now consistent-ish, but as you see here, I have Tholin-based benzene on this build that I built yesterday, as well as nitrogen being produced and some hydrogen for ammonia. I've got the actual vanilla sulfuric acid here, because sure, why not? As well as the nitrobenzene for the nitrobenzene-based iron oxide. Just, a red belt. Just a red belt of iron oxide being produced. It's not actually all that much iron. In the grand scheme of things, it's a little over a yellow belt worth of iron plates. I'm not really doing anything with it anyway right now. I'm not doing anything with sulfur right now anyway. So I figured, you know what? Let's just use some sulfur that I'm not actually using at all right now, and a few plates and a bit of chromium. to do the ammonia here. What has Immortal missed? Not much. Just that I talked about how the cats made their weight, and they're able to go through all their procedures today, both of them. So we may be picking up the kittens this weekend, this Saturday. So huzzah, it happened. I also mentioned the fact that when we use the term fixing for pets, referring to spay and neutering, we're not using the word fix as in repair, we're using the word fix as in put into a set state. Because, English words have multiple meanings most of the time. So it's not fixed as in repair, as the origin of that phrase. It's fix as in setting into a fixed state. Anyway, so yeah, I was just going over this nice little iron oxide factory that I have made off screen for my Circuit 2s in particular, and how I was just mentioning. I've not talked about those things yet. I'm about to get to that right after I talk about this new factory that I just set up yesterday that does Tholin-based benzene. And like normal nitrogen and oxygen, ammonia, vanilla sulfuric acid, nitrobenzene, and the actual iron oxide. So that's like the main off-screen thing. Also set up a number of Mark II buildings being made, specifically the buildings related to the actual production of the Circuit 2s. So this machine is operating mostly consistently. It's greater than 1 per second, but less than 2 per second, somewhere in between there. And I'm sort of trying to now get rid of some of the bottlenecks here. Some of these are limited by their Mark I counterparts being produced. But anyway, it's greater than it was before. I'm also not doing a tech right now because the previous tech finished. Whatever the hell it was, I don't remember. Aurum, whatever, I think was what it was. One of the levels of Aurum. And now I have Domestication 3, which is about done. About done, and it's gonna fill really fast because I haven't been doing techs. Okay, new updates. Brand spankin' new updates here. Fastwood forestries now require trees. How does one get trees? One gets trees through processes. So you have to raise saplings into trees. So it's the same method as normal to get the saplings. It's just a new recipe in the fastwood forestry that makes trees. And the fastwood forestry is not blocked by not having modules in it. So you can raise the saplings to get the trees to make the fastwood forestries go faster. Alright, and that's a difference by comparison to most other buildings of this type. So yeah, we're able to start zooming now. I have Mark II fastwoods at this point. I mean, yeah, it's great. I have some Mark II fastwoods. I need to go through. Of course, this update would happen right after I scale up my wood production. So, thank you so much for that. Now I need to get a whole bunch of modules for my 60 per second wood factory. And I've of course started this process off for you, so we don't have to wait forever about this, but it's convenient because we have more to talk about. This is not the only thing that has changed. There is now a method of getting Mark II sap. Just to note, that looks pretty reasonable. I can do that. That's a guaranteed output from a sap tree. 5 sap trees. Yeah, Quar will get the same treatment. Yeah, I would expect that much, especially since Ulrich food, basic food, now requires guar. That is another thing that I made note of. Another one of those things that just stuck out in my mind. A lot of food, advanced foods, require guar, but a couple basic foods also require guar, or guar gum. In this case, Ulrich Food needs guar itself, so we will have to set that up. Have to have some guar. Because guess how I'm doing my Ulrich line out here. My Ulrich line out here uses Ulrich Food. And I don't really have any more being produced because, well, it needs guar. I happen to have a nice little space right here that's opened up recently to attempt to do some guar. We shall see how I end up doing that. I could just add it onto the train station, maybe. Why I built this way? I'm so glad I don't build this way anymore. I'm glad that I no longer build in this manner on this train station, but I still have to deal with. I might want to do guar separately and add it onto here somehow. Okay. Outside of that, so there's now space dingrets. So this exists now. Yeah. You literally launch dingrets into space. Space dingrets into space. These are like satellites. As far as I'm aware, by my interpretation of things, you are literally launching wolves into space. What do you get from these wolves? You get the cosmic space dingret in return, and you then have to process them into scenario hearts, which are now a requirement of perfect samples for utility science. So you now need a rocket setup, basically. You now need a rocket setup for utility science. And of course, you may have noticed with the actual dingret, space dingret, it's not using a normal dingret for this. Oh no, it is using an improved dingret. Which, yeah, it's requiring these proteins. Which, stuff. It's stuff. Cridrin, alien enzymes, sample 3s, cysteine, which is, oh hey, it's dingret fur. Because yes, let's require a dingret product to make an upgraded dingret. Sure. That makes sense. Hi! I want this. Yes, please. This is a tech. This is a useful tech. Yes, please. An actual useful tech at this point. Okay, so that's the space dingrets. That's fine. That's actually fine. That makes complete total sense. What does not make complete total sense is an update that I have not installed at the moment, and that is there has been a complete and utter overhaul to Tholins. So Tholins now only exist after utility science. Oh, also, can we appreciate the fact that the rocket silo, by the way, is a utility science tech? So rocket silos are a utility science tech. How do we get utility science? We sort of just went over this, but we sort of need to launch wolves into space. Rocket is now green science. No, it is not. No, it is not. Not in the PyPH update. I looked at this very specifically. In the PyPH update, this still requires utility science. I did the PyPH update. It is still a utility science. Regardless, it does not matter. That does not matter. Because what ends up coming after this, I installed it and then uninstalled it after looking at it. That is what happened, Python. I installed it, I looked at the changes made in it, and then I proceeded to revert back to the previous version of it. That is what I did. And also, by the way, if you're not using Pi Tech, if you're not using that PyPH, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because reasons. If you're not using the most recent version of PyPH, you are screwed in PyAlienLife. So you might need to make a dependency requirement change on the version, because this, without the most recent PyPH version, this is utility science, and you need to launch dogs into space to make utility science. It's not that PyPH needs to be a requirement, it's that this most recent version of PyPH needs to be a requirement. 178 now needs to be a requirement. The actual version number 178 would need to be a requirement if that is the one that changes the rocket silos tech requirements. If that is the one that changes the rocket silos tech requirements, you need to have that specific version be required for PyAlienLife, which, oh boy. So, Tholins. Vat brain, yeah, technically, but that vat brain is supposed to be something that is completely optional. So, the topic, the reason why I was why I wanted to revert, basically, the reason why I wanted to completely revert back is because Tholins are now a post-rocket silo situation, and satellites are modified, but they still require rocket fuel and low-density structures. So, Tholins now, the way that they work is that the Tholin atmospheric extractors will give you this item called proto-Tholins rather than Tholins. You then have to make these vessels for these proto-Tholins. These vessels require low-density structures, which, again, low-density structures are that bullshit right there. Each LDS I'll point that out. That's low-density structures, each one. You have to spend the low-density structures for these vessels to fill these vessels. Granted, I think it's like 1 into 5. One empty vessel makes 5 filled vessels for some reason. You then need like 100 filled vessels to the normal satellite, which I think they just got rid of the circuit requirement on the satellite. The satellite recipe has changed, but it's still requiring low-density structures, a lot of them, to actually make the satellite. Where are you? Under normal circumstances. Oh, here. It moves the satellite to Tholins 1, but it's still LDS, rocket fuel, solar panels, accumulators, and these 100... it's not 100 circuit 3s, I think. It's 100 circuit... It's 100 of these filled Tholin, proto-Tholin containers. You launch a rocket, and you get 500 barrels of Tholins in return for launching the rocket with a satellite. So, 30 low-density structures. Okay, 30 low-density structures. Still, we looked at low-density structures, and that it's a lot of stuff each, LDS. 25 solar panels, also somewhat expensive. That's big pyrite expenditure for the solar panels. It's 25 advanced circuits, which is circuit 3, so it's 25 circuit 3s, and then 10 rocket fuel. All right, reduced amount, but still rocket fuel. And then 100 of those filled vessels, which is more low-density structures for the empty vessels to make those vessels. 1/5 of 100, so 20 of those empty vessels worth of low-density structures. And this returns 500 barrels of Tholins. 500 barrels of Tholins. A barrel is what? How much? I don't even... Why on earth would you do this? Exactly. This is my point. It is a metric ton, several metric tons of resources required now to actually make Tholins. 50 per barrel, yeah. So 5,000 units of Tholins per rocket launch with satellite. $100. Okay, so it's regardless 10,000 Tholins. It doesn't matter. It could give 10 million Tholins. It's still not going to be worth doing. Vessels are a closed loop, so says you. They're not. In fact, if anything on the vessels, it is a net positive. I don't even know. You lose the vessels in the making of the satellite. You lose the filled proto vessels in the making of the satellite. The satellite does not give you the Tholin vessels in return. The satellite does not give you Tholin vessels in return. It gives you Tholin barrels in return. These are very different things. So when you make the satellite, you don't get your vessels back. You do not get your vessels back when you make the satellite. I very explicitly was looking for that, and no, you do not get your vessels back when you make your satellite. The satellite requires vessels to make it. Oh, you get it. It would tell you that you get it back. When you, in the recipe, would say that the recipe gives it back, and I did not see that. If it was 1-to-1 giving back the empty vessels, the empty proto vessels from the creation of the satellite, fine. Sure, you only need to craft the vessels only once. Well, it's still too expensive to make the satellite in the first place for these to be of any value whatsoever. I mean, this is such a ridiculous mechanic on the whole, on the entirety of it, that Tholins don't exist anymore. You may as well have just deleted them from the game. They do not exist anymore. There is no circumstance where I will ever choose to use Tholins ever again. Period. Full stop. I now have to transition everything away from Tholins in order to do this update, and I will never use them again. They know they are dead, basically, to me. They are dead. They do not exist, and that is how it's going to be for basically everyone who plays this game. So they just don't exist. It's pretty simple. They simply do not exist now. I completely ignore them. And the only time that I will be launching rockets at this point would be to make the space thingies. My Leica 2.0 space dogs. That would be the only reason for me to have a rocket. So, I reverted primarily because I have so many things using Tholins right now that would immediately break. So my intention is I will do this update, but I will not do this update until I have fixed everything across the entire base to no longer use Tholins. That is the overall conclusion here from me by looking at the stuff with the Tholins is they don't exist. They certainly don't exist for me now. If I do this update, everything breaks anyway. I'd rather stuff work and fix a working factory than attempt to fix a broken factory. So that's going to be that going forward. Which means fixing this, which is going to be a lot more space than this, but hey, at least we're going to free up a bunch of energy. And that's going to be the upside. We're going to be freeing up a ton of power through this. In particular, the main areas that have lots of Tholins are the niobium. That's a big spot. The iron oxide benzene that I just pointed out, and the spot right here, which has the cobalt extract. So this cobalt extract has cyanic acid as a requirement. That is all of these. That's going to need to be changed. There was no use for prototholins whatsoever outside of using it to make tholins. They only exist to fill these canisters to make the satellite to launch into space. That is the only reason they exist. That is the only reason they exist. I'm trying to look and see that, okay, here I have formaldehyde. I think I've got formaldehyde on my main bus as well. That's Tholin formaldehyde. So this needs to be changed. Need to add like a copper input, fine, whatever. Yeah, and this breaks everyone's base. By the way, if you update PyPH right now, your base is broken if you use greater than or equal to 1 thing with Tholins. Above 0 Tholins, if there's more than 0 Tholins in your base, it's dead if you do this PyPH stuff. The Guar. Guar is going to require modules. That's the only main thing with the Guar. It's just, it'll need modules. But it's now required for a bunch of stuff, just in general. It's not too bad. Also, as if all of this wasn't enough, the base Factorio has been updated. Base Factorio's UI has been overhauled, in case you haven't noticed yet. The base UI of Factorio, as well as a ton of icons, have been updated. That is definitely something I'm going to have to get used to with these medium and big electric power poles, because this medium power pole icon looks a hell of a lot similar to the old big electric pole icon. This is going to confuse me, because this looks like the old big electric pole to my eyes. It looks too similar to it, and I am going to confuse it constantly for the icon for it. But yeah, like a ton of icons have been updated. Like splitter I see is different here. The power poles, the like brightness on everything has been changed. The signal here, this signal is different. The rail is brighter. The train is different. I see here. Lamps are different. I mean, it's just lots and lots of things, including the actual UI here. So this UI has changed. It's now gears. Just set the recipe. No longer like the undo U-turn button for changing the recipe. Why they decided that was a good idea, I have no idea. Gosh, the UI on the modules is different. Let's look at, yeah, so it at least it still gives you the scroll bar there. Yeah, so it's lots of UI stuff. In particular, the most important change that they have done in the vanilla Factorio experience is that logistic requester chests can now request 30 items as opposed to 12. So this immediately alleviates the inherent issue of a lot of the late game Pie Suite buildings that require more than 12 items when trying to make them on your mall. That immediately alleviates all problems. Anything that needs more than 12 items. This one's 11 for that Mark III. Yeah. So, you now only need the one chest. Huzzah! You now only need the one chest, just as long as you don't have vanilla, like, requester settings trying to bring in 10,000 units of stuff by doing the right-click, the shift right-click, left-click onto the thingy. Because that would be bad. That would fill up your whole chest, depending on the stack size of the things. Okay. Also, I can confirm that Mark 1... Hello, tech. Thank you so kindly. My tech is finally flowing, by the way. I can confirm that Mark 1 botanical nurseries don't have module slots with the current Pie Suite settings that I am using, and the Mark 2s have 2. This would be a problem associated with this setting in PyCoal processing, applying to botanical nurseries. So it's assuming that the level 1 has a module defined, when it is somehow doesn't. I don't know if it has a module defined and then somewhere that module is removed. And then this, because this is done in PyCoal processing, it runs the code from coal processing first that doubles it before it gets removed. So chances are this is probably a thing that gets removed in Alien Life, that the code on the multiplier to double each tier is just applying after it gets removed here. I don't really know exactly the order of operations that's causing this, but it seems to me like it's just an order of scripts running that's doing this. I would think it would multiply by 0 to get 0, but somewhere it's finding 1. So it's just, yeah, somehow it's finding 1. Alright, all this time has passed. This 35 minutes has already passed, and we have done absolutely nothing. How does that sound? That sounds like normal to me. So this could now be... By the way, you do know that I just picked up the tech that gives me the 0.8 output, and the original intent was for all of these buildings with all of these recipes that have that 0.6 recipe to automatically update to the 0.8. Yeah, it doesn't automatically update. It doesn't automatically update to the 80% one. Which one was that? I don't even. This Yadles. And you are Novin. Alright, cool. Spores. Tons of spores. Why do Bodos only stack to 50 on their spores, and everything else stacks to 500. Just, one of those consistency things. 3 of these stack to 500. Bodo stacks to 50. Maybe they should all stack to 300. Make them even more consistent. Yes, obviously huge. They're huge spores. Massive. Massive 50 micron spores versus 10. I don't even know off the top of my head what the normal scale for spore size is. I don't think in those terms. Okay, I should have the Fastwoods doing the trees down here. I should have some trees. Oh yeah, they stack to 300. At least they should. Let's finish with getting all of these with the trees. I have a couple Mark IIs here giving me plenty of tree seeds. Giving me 0.6. I cannot rely on what is it really used for on the output because these have the -1 productivity, and what is it really used for does not floor productivity at 0, which is exactly what the vanilla game does. So even though these have -1 productivity cannot go below 0. It is forbidden. It does not go below 0 in the base game. However, it is calculating that negative productivity in what is it really used for. Hell mod, though, Hell mod is fine. Hell mod does floor to 0. So if I add in the wood, it's not wood, it's tree. Excuse me, I need a tree. So if I add tree, and I go in, again, the UIs have changed a little bit with the update to the base game. So yeah, just do that. Do Mark II there. And then be like, hey, I've got 5 of those. 5 of those with a ton of actual trees in them.